10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you are here with us. And we're going to have a great show planned for you today. Well, we do have a great show planned for you today, as usual. But, you know, the great thing about doing a show like this is that the content kind of creates itself because every day there's news. And if you're a news talk show, you've got something to talk about each and every day. And you know, as we move forward into the future, things get more and more interesting. And as we are so close to federal election, in Canadian politics, things have never been as, I guess, entertaining to some degree, or people haven't been as involved as they are now historically. It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented in that way, but it's also unprecedented in terms of its importance. It's the most crucial election in our country's history. Both sides are saying it. Either you're strongly convicted on one side or you're strongly convicted on the other side, and you're saying this is an important election. We need to have more of the same. You're very convicted. This is the life you've wanted all your life, the way our society is going. This is, or you want things to either go back to some of the things we've had before, or you want things to be better than they are now. You don't want more of the same. So you're either on one side of the fence or another. Either you're wearing team red or team blue. And as we're going to show in the show today, very few people are wearing team green or team orange. Excuse me. Or team whatever the color is of the other parties, right? So we're going to dive into what Sudbury's looking like these days. You know, a lot of talk about polls. So we're going to talk about polls. Are polls legit? You know, a lot of times you'll hear on the CBC of all channels, of all networks, that the polls are right. And all these people that are saying the polls aren't right, they you know, there's something wrong with them. So we'll talk about polls. We'll talk about how the polls are done in Canada, and if you can trust them, and if they've been accurate all this time, and maybe even if you believe they're not all that accurate, maybe some of the trends that are happening, and no matter what, we're starting to see something from the polls themselves, right? So grateful that you're here with us this morning. We'll dive right in. We're going to start off with a little bit of weather, but before that, we just want to let everyone know that we're live on CKLU 96.7 FM on terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live at cklu.ca online. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can stream us, download it, and you can take us with you. Listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We're also streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel or the page. Mainly comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching. And I'm kind of conflicted over reading as many comments as I've done before. And there's no, it's nothing to be said about the kind of comments that our listeners and our viewers make. It's just a matter of the timing of the show and having to get the content on. So I'm going to do my best. I will do my best to read as many as I possibly can. I see so many people. Good morning to all of you. Good morning to everybody who's jumping on. So grateful that you're here. As I saw yesterday's show, I had to just motor through, and I even left a few examples for the case I was making that CBC is a bias network, and it is guilty of misinformation, the very thing that they're very worried about other people spreading or saying in a public place. They're very guilty of it over and over and over. And it's the pot calling the kettle black, or it's just they are the black kettle calling out people that aren't spreading misinformation. Even they're saying they're misinformation, whereas it's the opposite. So we made that case yesterday. There was more to be said about that. And so anyways, just trying to do my best on the show to get as much information out as I possibly can to try and help, give an alternate perspective than what we get in the mainstream media these days. And so anyways, we're going to do our best to have a combination of all those things. Now, the show is also found on demand after the show on YouTube and Facebook, along with x.com/Sudbury News. Let's dive in with a little bit of weather. Be back with news headlines. We'll get your comments, and we'll get into the polls and what do they mean, and who does it look like who's winning, and how is Sudbury doing, and all that stuff when we come back right after this. And weather brought to you by Voyager Tire. Great people, great products, great prices at the intersection of Falconbridge 2nd Avenue and the Kingsway. Let them know we sent you to get a 10% discount. Currently, it is 3 degrees. It's mainly sunny out there still, but today we can expect showers. How is it still sunny then? Let's see here. Was that from yesterday? I refreshed it 3 times. Well, it's saying mainly sunny, but showers are going to end this morning, so I don't understand the two. So it is what it is. I'm reading from Environment Canada. There's a risk of thunderstorm early this morning. Partly cloudy, becoming tonight. It'll be partly cloudy, becoming cloudy near midnight. 40% chance of showers before the morning. Fog patches developing overnight. Low of +3. Friday, cloudy. 40% chance of showers early in the morning. Then rain. The rain will be beginning in the morning. Fog patches dissipating in the morning. Amount 10 to 15 millimeters of rain. The high will be 8. And so, yes, rainy, 8 tomorrow. Chance of rain or flurries, yes, with a high of 12. But still, there's a chance of flurries on Saturday. Wonder bar, that's 30%. And then Sunday, sunny, 18 degrees. Monday, showers, chance of showers, 40%. High of 17. Look at these temperatures we're getting. High of 18 and chance of rain or periods of rain on Tuesday. A high of 10 on Wednesday as it starts cooling off again. 60% chance of rain. So it looks like it's wet and warm for the next foreseeable future. There's a look at your satellite. A lot of clouds everywhere. And that's your Sudbury weather brought to you by Voyager Tire, voyagertire.com. Go in and let them know we sent you, and you'll get a 10% discount on already discounted name brand prices, name brand tires. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. All right, and I can see from the comments already, chatty bunch. You guys are a chatty bunch already. But let's get some good morning shout outs in. Northern Hillbilly, good morning, everybody. Good morning to you, Nana. Good morning, everyone. Blessings to all. Heart emoji. Marianne, good morning, everyone from Barrie, liked and shared. As usual, good morning. Judy, Scott, good morning. And Denise, blessings, everyone. Same with Marvin. Good morning, everyone. Up early in Alberta. Monique, good morning, Sudbury. Thanks for sharing that video early this morning, Monique. Much appreciated. You got the cool emoji with the glasses. Good morning, Vin. Thanks for being on. Belinda says, and good morning, by the way. Remember to include yourself in the list of things you need to take care of today. Triple heart emoji. Very good advice. You got to take care of you, or you can't take care of anyone else, right? Exactly. And so, Northern Hillbilly says, how do we awake the normies today? And by that, you mean, how do we get people to at least start thinking of new types of things they might not have thought about before? Start looking at the world with a different perspective or a new perspective, or just try to understand things as they really are, and not get rid of our biases, get rid of things, just look at life for what it really is. And for that, you need to exercise certain things. You need to be a critical thinker. You need to look at something and not just take it at face value. You need to ask questions and say, is that really what it is? How do I know it is what it is? Is there anything else I need to know about this? Is there anything that I need to be aware of, that's more than what I'm being told? Are there any other things that are maybe what is a different perspective? What if I was devil's advocate with what I'm hearing? Things like that. Never assume what you're hearing, and always question your own assumptions. You know what happens when you assume, right? For sure. So thanks for that. And Vin says, Schwab stepping down from the WEF is a distraction. When Carney loses, straight back to the WEF as their leader? Question mark. So you think Carney might be the leader of the WEF? Possibly. I know you might not be saying that there, but I'm proposing that possibly that would happen, that Carney would step into the role. If he can't be the leader of Canada, maybe he can be the leader of the world, the unelected world kind of thing, that's making a lot of big decisions and influencing a lot of elected leaders all the time from a global perspective, right? Good morning, David. Thanks for being on. Marianne, polls are BS. Yeah, we'll be talking about the polls today. That's our main deep dive of the day. And Monique, Grand Rising. Jerome, good morning today. Valley East Industrial Park is where you are, under a beautiful sunrise and a crisp spring and the crisp spring air. Beautifully said, very poetic. It's almost like I'm there. And good morning, Jerome. So Belinda, so much propaganda about accuracy of the polls. I don't trust anything from mainstream media. So, and this is the thing, people wonder, why do they not trust mainstream media so much? Well, it's because people know they're lying, or they've lied, or they've not said truths. So there's sin of omission and there's sin of commission. A sin of omission is not saying it. Like, let's say your boss walks in and you saw somebody take the stapler, and the boss is like, did anyone take the stapler? And you know full well you saw someone take the stapler, and you're like, I don't know. So that's a sin of omission, right? You're just, well, actually, that's a sin of commission, because you actually said you didn't know when you did. But if you just ignored and just walked out of the room and didn't say anything, that's a sin of omission. So you're not lying, but you're not telling the truth either, right? So media is very complicit in that particular type of wrongdoing. 1,000,000%. We talk about all these things in Lurleen. Good morning to you. You just have a blank space there, but hope you're having a good morning. So that's what we talk about on the show all the time. And we try to play an alternate perspective. Independent media seems to be covering a lot of the things that, so let's see, we don't mind at all. Your show yesterday was okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's the idea of trying to have less of a discussion. I enjoy it. It's awesome. But at the same time, we want to be able to get into things, and it's hard to produce a show on the fly, have actual content that's engaging and timely, and also moderate at the same time. It's not easy, because you're controlling all the devices. And good morning, Hazel. You're speaking live, and then you're also trying to keep the conversation going. and then troubleshoot as you go with these devices too. Pat, good morning, people. But it's a great exercise. It is a really great exercise. I think everyone should try doing something like this. It just really keeps your brain crisp, especially first thing in the morning. It's absolutely incredible. You get up, you have your morning routine, speak to the big guy, do a little bit of looking at the news just to make sure you don't miss things like the Pope passing away, kind of getting caught blindsided, things like that, and then just dive right into it. But it's great. It's great getting up with you guys each and every morning and really trying to look into making sense of the world we live in a really incredibly bizarre world as things are evolving and changing and rapidly. The world yesterday doesn't look the same as the world today. But so let's just check in with a couple news headlines that we got here from our news aggregator, Sudbury.news, as news is coming in. Sudbury 5 last night won, by the way. So they take a 2-1 lead in their, that's our Sudbury professional basketball team in the Super Basketball League, I believe it's called, something like that. And anyways, so they're in the championship against Windsor. They were tied 1-1, but they won their game last night. So they could win. If they win the next game in Windsor, I believe it's tomorrow night. But if they, tomorrow night or Saturday, sorry, you can look that up. But if they win the championship. So that would be pretty great for Sudbury and Sudbury 5. But if they lose, they're going to have the championship game next back in Sudbury. So you'll be able to get your tickets for that and go down and watch the Sudbury 5 in a winner-take-all Game 5 championship game. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Local news headline here from from CBC. Trade war drives up costs for emergency equipment for Northern Ontario First Nations. You can check more about that on our website. So, yeah, there's lots of stories about what the, I guess they're calling it. And good morning, Wade. Thanks for being on, my friend. Pass it on, undercoating. Pass it on. If you think, well, I got my car undercoated already for the winter and I'm fine. Wade will tell you first off, and I need to, can I book an appointment with you right now here on the show, Wade, for 2, if not 3 vehicles? We need to get it done in the spring. So anyways, if you can message me on Facebook, tell me what your next available openings are, if that's possible. If not, I'll have to get in touch with you. It just seems like life is so busy. But thanks for being on. Okay, so here's a story right here out of Sudbury about the elections. Advance poll turnout. I'll get this on the screen here. Advance poll turnout breaks record. 7.3 million ballots were cast in the advance polling. So that breaks a record. So it shows you how important this poll is to Canadians, or this election, sorry. The waning days of the federal election campaign saw voters turn out in record numbers for advance polls, and party leaders attempt to poke holes in each other's platforms, right? So it's we're winding down now and it's crunch time. But we'll have a look into some of our Sudbury, how it's doing in Sudbury, because Sudbury.com has been polling our citizens here in Sudbury on their website. And I was really, really surprised yesterday at how Sudbury is polling these days. So we'll get into that right after, some of the people talking about polling in general in Canada. So here's, wanted to see here. So here's Blender News talking about polls, right? And they might, it might resonate with you, with what they got to say.
Even the polls, the Liberals have this in the bag, but step outside the spreadsheet and into the real world, and the story looks very different. Ledger polls have the Liberals at 44% to the Conservatives at 38%. 338 Canada has the Liberals polling at 43% over the Conservatives, again, at 38%. Polymarket, where there's money involved, have the Liberals favored 67% to 33%, while Bet99 is paying out 3-1 for the Liberals to win. In fact, Abacus is the only mainstream poll that has the parties tied. The rest show a 2 to 12-point lead for the Liberals. And while this should be concerning to some degree, when you stack the polls up against the massive crowds Poilievre is drawing compared to the Liberals, well, this is Poilievre in Fredericton. This is London, Ontario.
Out of control spending Liberals and put a common sense Conservative government in place.
Here's Poilievre in Surrey, BC. Pierre in PEI. And again in PEI.
So again, for people on the radio, I know you're just hearing voices and cheering and things like this, but these are mass rallies. It's almost like it's like a Nickelback concert. I don't know. It's like a big concert. He's filling huge venues, 15,000 people plus. So let's just imagine seeing the Sudbury Arena full to capacity with just even people just, all along the upper, part there where everyone's just standing all packed in. I don't even think you can fit that many people in the Sudbury Arena. That's like 3 Sudbury Arenas full of a rock concert.
Here's the Toronto lineup. Pierre in Hamilton. This is Winnipeg. Here's another huge lineup in Kingston, a Liberal stronghold. And here is everyone again as the whole crowd sings our national anthem. In contrast, this is Pierre compared to Carney. This is a pub in Georgetown called St. George, asking not to be judged after facing significant community backlash for hosting Mark Carney. And this is Mark Carney's rally in St. John's, where he literally locked local fishermen out of the building. So despite the polls, I think Canada is ready for a change. However, I also think it's important that Canadians take the polls as a sign to mobilize, get out and vote, and do what we can to help get Canada back on track. If you believe in the polls, the Liberals have this in the bag, but step outside the spreadsheet and into the real world, and the story looks very different.
So yeah, thanks for that. That's Blender News. I really appreciate their type of news. Again, because it seems like independent media, and you can tell, wait a minute, he said get out and vote for the Conservatives. That doesn't sound very unbiased. No, independent media, and a lot of these people are on the Conservative side because it's unfortunate, but it's almost like as a pushback to mainstream media, which is far left. So it's you can't, if you're like me and you're driving in your car and you're constantly hearing far left news, then it's really hard to listen to. And you're like, well, no, there's this side too. So, and then you have the other side saying they're going to have media that's actually, they want to defund the very media that's very biased and doesn't represent Canadians at all. And so, yeah, you start to become more on the other side. It's just a natural thing. Everything has an opposite, right? So, yeah, that is true. They're saying go out and vote for the Conservatives because if you vote for the Liberals, you're going to get more of the same. And we're kind of done. We're tired with this. Again, here's independent media again talking about mainstream media lying, and you make up your mind for yourself.
Polling numbers used by mainstream media are complete BS, and I'm going to blow your mind. Watch this. And I'm sure almost everyone has seen this poll. This is by the far left-leaning CTV News and the Globe and Mail and Nanos, and I'm going to talk about Nanos in a second. As you can see here, there's a double-point lead for the Liberal Party. According to them, there's a likelihood that they might have a majority government. Remember Nano's research for 1 second. Watch this. See, if you look up the 22 to 23 Annual Report on Government of Canada Public Opinions Research Activities, you will find how much money they've gotten from the government, specifically the Liberal Government of Canada. 2 of the biggest recipients have actually been Nano's Research Corporation for 1.4 million, and the other one I'm going to talk about is Ecos, which has gotten nearly $2 million. And we could take a look at all the contracts that they've gotten. Ecos got $100,000 for public opinion research with Canadians on pet trade. Fine, whatever. Ecos got nearly $100,000 for the status of the high performance athlete survey. And I'm not going to go through them all, but it goes on and on and on and on. Now this is where it gets interesting. Frank Graves, the voice of Frankie, he's the owner of Ecos. And he will tweet things out like Liberals maintain strong and stable lead. But before we get there, watch this. I've never interacted with Frank before. He blocked me. He preemptively blocked me. I've literally have never messaged him, said anything directly to him. I've never tagged him. But the head of Ecos Research blocked me. And not only that, he also put out this tweet. A real conservative option is a healthy counterbalance in a healthy democracy. Pierre Poilievre is an acolyte of authoritarian populism. This is never healthy. You are on notice. Going to make sure you are never going to lead my country. I don't make idle threats.
So that's owner of one of the research polling companies, basically, and saying he's going to prevent Pierre Poilievre from getting in. So if you're concerned about bias in our mainstream media or any of the polling companies that are out there that we're using to get these polls, that's interesting, right? That you would have the owner come out and say, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you never get in, and that's not an idle threat, basically, right? So that's just food for thought.
This was back in 2022, and this tweet had since then been deleted. And considering, fast forward to today, he's tweeting out things like this. Do you think there could possibly be bias? Here's the other thing you need to know about Frank Graves. He is an instructor with the Department of Sociology and Anthropology at Carleton University. He also serves on the advisory board for Carleton Sprott School of Business. And he was also criticized back in 2010 for making disparaging remarks against the Conservative Party, such as, if the cranky old men in Alberta don't like it, too bad, go south and vote for Palin. As he provided polling services to CBC, a review was carried out which concluded the matter had been dealt with. He later then apologized and denied anti-conservative bias in his polling. Now this is where it gets very suspicious. This guy here mapped out his most recent results. This is what Ecos had put together. As you can see, everywhere in Canada is red. The Liberals win 272 seats, and they're even ahead in Alberta. Even this guy's laughing. And Pierre Poilievre loses his seats by 5. This is all red because I believe this is all a massive red flag. The polls are a red flag. And I truly believe Frank over here is a red flag. I also believe that is why he blocked me, because he knows I have the intelligence and the ability to understand how surveys are done, how you can easily put bias in them. And that's the thing about economists. We know how these things work. Just remember one thing. Polls are not votes, and I truly believe this is being done to discourage the blue wave of conservative voters that are going to go out and vote for Pierre Poilievre. Because true Canadians and conservatives have not forgotten what has happened in the last 10 years. Conservatives are not flipping to the NDP or to the Liberals. And not only even 3 weeks ago, this article came out where it said conservatives rebound with voters, regain double-digit lead as Liberals slide. I am now more confident than I've ever been before that this is going to be a blue wave. We need everyone to come out, we need everyone to vote, and we need to make sure that we all do it soon, we do it early, and we don't wait for April 28th. You can vote today.
So again, this is a thing that, it'll trigger a lot of people if you're just driving your car and you're going through the radio and you just hit on this and, oh, this sounds like the CBC, so I'm going to listen to it. wait a minute, they're saying things my brain's not used to hearing. It's something's wrong with this. Can't compute. So if you're one of those people, and you're like, wait a minute, he said go out and vote conservative. Is this news? How is it news if this person's saying go out and vote conservative? Well, this is the thing. He is a conservative, and he comes out and says it. And he gives a bunch of facts before he says it as well. And it's up to you to not just get all triggered and get upset when you hear that, to see if he's telling you the truth. So he made a bunch of claims. He showed, so now on the radio you can't see it, but on the live stream you can. He showed all the articles he was talking about. He showed the tweets. He made the case. He was very transparent. And I love the idea he's transparent with what party he belongs to. The problem with the CBC is they masquerade as if they're unbiased, but they're not. They might as well just come out. They are saying it through what they're it's the sin of omission again, right? Well, this is a Liberal voter or NDP voter for sure. As they're talking, you can just tell. It's almost like you can tell someone's from Newfoundland from their accent. You can just tell this is a Liberal voter as they're talking on the CBC as a so-called unbiased reporter. They don't come out. I wish they would say, everyone go out and vote Liberal. Everyone go out and vote Liberal, and just come out and say it. Because that's what they're trying to do with the way they report news. You just can't not see it if you understand news and you understand journalism. It's true. And any of these companies that measure media, whether they're right or left, it's very apparent that the CBC is very left, one of the most far left. They're right with CNN in the United States. And here's the thing with the polls, right? Do you remember the United States and the polling that took place before the election down there? What were they telling us? What were they telling people about what the nation was thinking or who they were thinking of voting for? The Democrats were way out ahead of the Republicans. If not, no, the best case scenario for the polling for Republicans were they were neck and neck. They were neck and neck. But what ended up happening on voting day? So he says you can't trust the polls. But so don't let that influence you, right? You can't trust the polls. But if polls were done, I know that he's an economist, right? So he knows how surveys are done and that they can be biased. And anybody who knows surveys knows that surveys can be biased, and you're supposed to take out the biases, especially if you're starting your own business. Like I had to do surveys when I started my business because I had to see if there was an actual, a market for my idea. I wasn't going to start a business if I didn't do some research to see if there was an actual market there. So I did market research. That's why it's called that. And I stood in front of a retail outlet. I believe it was Walmart when they first came here to New Sudbury, and just asked people to fill out my survey. But I had to make sure there was no leading questions in there. It was very unbiased because I don't want skewed results for my own. I didn't want to just make myself happy. Like I just hope these people answer the right questions, because it's going to cost me a lot of money if I go into business and make a business based on these results. So there can't be any biases in this survey. So there's ways to do that, and they don't follow the fundamentals of unbiased practices with surveys, right? Now, as I think anyways, if Sudbury.com is doing their surveys on their websites without any tampering kind of thing, then these results, which I think are the case, I think they just have questions, and they just show the results. So if they're not skewed, it was a real eye opener yesterday as I was on Sudbury.com looking at the questions they've asked, because they have a page where you can kind of go back and look at questions. And I'll just show you what it looks like if you go on their web page. Sudbury.com. It's Sudbury.com/polls. And you can see on their website, they'll ask different questions. And here's a kind of a list of all the questions and the dates they've asked, and then the results. So one thing they asked, and they ask all kinds of things, but I'm just going to keep it to the federal election related questions. So here's one question they just came out and said, what party would you vote for if a federal election was held today? And that was on April 15th, right? So we'll look at the polling, and this is Sudbury, and this may indeed surprise you as it did me. And I shared one of these on our Sudbury News Facebook feed. As you can see, Conservatives 55%, Liberals 33% in Sudbury. That's as of April the 15th. So almost 10 days ago. This would have been just before the pre-election, the early voting. So it's not pre-elections, it's early voting, which we had a record amount of people going out. 7.3 million people went out and voted. But this is Sudbury, ladies and gents. Like, this is unprecedented. I don't think Sudbury has ever had a conservative federal candidate, as far as my memory serves me, ever in history. This is historical for Sudbury, right? And you might be saying, wow, how is that? That's not what I'm hearing on CBC. Well, hence go back and watch yesterday's show and you'll see why. This is a pretty neat indicator of that. And I hope just Sudbury.com just keeps doing, straightforward polling and just puts the results that people put in, because it's really great to have something like this, and good on Sudbury.com for just having straight ahead polling, because we're getting very leery of, and we're very skeptical of mainstream media. And this is good for you guys to have some confidence from people in your city when you actually see real results here, right? We know this. We knew this. Our gut feeling told us this. CBC came out and said, don't think the record-breaking attendance at Pierre Poilievre's rallies have anything to do with how the country's going to vote. The polling is what you really need to look at. That's what they said. I almost word for word. That's what someone came on CBC and said. The record-breaking people at Pierre Poilievre rallies it's no indication of how people are going to vote. Right? So again, I made the case yesterday about CBC's reporting. Just take off the mask and just put CBC liberal TV, and we'll be fine with that. That's fine. And then we need to bring back maybe a Sun TV idea, so then people can just watch the two. You can just flip back and forth. A main story comes out on the news, like I do. Like, I was driving home after the Zelensky visit to the White House, and I listened to CBC. And they talked about how Donald Trump was a tyrant and how he treated Zelensky, like a bully and all these things. And it was terrible. I was like, Donald Trump, my goodness, you're really, like, he has a tendency of being brash and all these things. And so again, I was almost all convinced that Donald Trump just totally, humiliated this guy and for no reason and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, great. So I just want good things to happen. I want progress, real progress to happen. And I want leaders who are accountable and they're actually making right choices for people. And so that kind of struck me. And Donald Trump is not perfect, but I do believe he's really trying to do the best he can for his country, to about a 99%, because I'm open to that 1% that he might be compromised, just like anybody is, right? So believe me, I'm open to that, and I'm so open to it. However, when I got home, I just flipped on Fox News, and it was the opposite. Trump was amazing. Like, Zelensky was, he didn't dress, he wore his tracksuit to the White House. Trump said, you're dabbling, what's going on in Ukraine could start World War III. And he kind of made a face and all these things. And so I was like, oh yeah. So the point I'm trying to make are I saw the two sides, and they were both one-sided. Both didn't do a good job of showing the actual, good, bad, and ugly of it, like reporting is supposed to do. So I guess the best we can ask for in this world are two biased sides, and then you actually watch them. Similar, and I don't think it's all that bad, to a courtroom. That's how our court systems work. When someone's accused of something, they go to court, and you have somebody who's defending the person who apparently did something, and then you have the prosecution that's trying to nail you to the wall. So there's nothing, I don't think, wrong with that. If you can't have unbiased reporting, we at least need that. So again, all these people accusing us on this show all the time of being, and Tyler Clark from Sudbury.com, of being far-right conspiracy theorists on the show, just because, they're not unbiased. Okay, no, there's bias in everything, but you need to see two sides at least if you can't get an unbiased version. And people are going around pretending that CBC is unbiased, and that's all you're doing. You're pretending that they're unbiased. It's not. It's far left. It is what it is, and I'm okay with that. Just come out and say it. I proposed back in the day that journalists, if you're on TV and you're speaking to the public in order to be accountable and transparent, you should divulge your political biases. So who did you vote for in the last election provincially? Who did you vote for in the last election federally? And it should say that on the bottom of the screen. It should have your logo, NDP, provincial, Liberal for federal. That's who this reporter voted for. And that's very transparent. It shows the bias. That in and of itself is unbiased, because it allows the viewer then to know, they're speaking from a Liberal or NDP perspective, not, no, it sounds really good to me because I'm Liberal and NDP. They're not saying anything that I don't agree with, because you're in an echo chamber in your mind, because everyone kind of is. That's your bias. And your echo chamber is what you surround yourself with. You surround yourself with the news you like, you agree with on social media. All the things you watch are things that you enjoy watching. It agrees with your point of view, right? So why not just come out and do that? I'm all for bringing a Sun Media type of thing back if you're going to have a CBC, or defund the CBC and force them to be more unbiased and have to be accountable, like all these independent journalists have to be, to the people that they're supposed to be accountable to anyways. Okay, that's my rant. Let's go back and look at some other polls. So this is, what party would you vote for if a federal election was held today? And I'll show it on the large screen again, just for everyone. This is Sudbury.com. As of April 15th, this is before the advanced polling. Conservatives, 55%. Liberals, 33%. Green, 1%. NDP, 4%. 4.5% almost. We'll give them that. PPC, almost the same, 4%. And other votes, 1%. Now, this is the thing. In Sudbury, I heard some people that went to vote. The PPC candidate wasn't even on the ballot. So there's something wrong there. That's wrong. If Pierre Poilievre's riding can have 93 candidates or so on his ballot, why was our PPC candidate in Sudbury missing? That's just somebody who went to the polls themselves, right? They went to the polls themselves and told me that. So that's first-hand information. That's not just, I heard this from someone who heard it from someone, like an REO Speedwagon song. Okay, so let's go to some other questions that are federal election related. So they're asking, just before, on April 18th, advanced polls for the 2025 federal election, if they open today, are you planning on voting early? So 65% said yes, 24% said no, 6% said not sure, and only almost 4% said they're not voting. So we can say roughly 5% of Sudbury, based on this poll, aren't going to vote at all, right? They're just, for whatever reason, they're not going to vote. So these are some things we're gleaning from the surveys that Sudbury.com has done. And from what I can see, there's no funny business going on with these statistics they're gathering from these polls they're doing. They're simply a poll and just gathering the answers and then giving the percentages back. So because people are a little bit scrutinizing these days of the polling. So if 65% of the people went to the polls early, as this survey is asking, and the results are that, and we saw that 55% of Sudbury wants to vote for Conservative, that means they're already that much ahead, according to this poll that Sudbury.com has done. So, all right. This is an interesting one. Should the Liberals and NDP merge? I just thought that was an interesting question from Sudbury.com. 29%, almost 30% said yes, and 70% said no. So I think you have some staunch NDP people in Sudbury. That's what that tells me, amongst other things. Should the Liberals and NDP merge? 30% yes, 70% no, from people in Sudbury. Okay, now we're getting into more specific questions. A preferential ballot is an election system which voters can expose preference between candidates by ranking them in order. Should Canada adopt this for federal elections? 60% said no, and 40% said yes. Again, a preferential ballot is an election system where voters can express their preference between candidates by ranking them. Like, I vote for this person number 1, this person number 2, this person number 3, if you could rank them. You know, and that's been discussed a lot in Canada as a potential way to vote going forward. But most of Sudbury doesn't really seem to want that one. From a list of candidates in Sudbury riding, who is getting your vote? This is 2 days ago. And a list of Sudbury candidates, who is getting your vote? Now, you got to remember, this is Sudbury.com. There's probably a lot of Liberal readers and NDP readers, viewers, whatever, for Sudbury.com. So it's not a right-leaning news organization by any stretch of the imagination. They have Nicholas Bondaroff at 2%. Now, he's the PPC candidate. He apparently wasn't even on the ballot, as according to someone who went there, but he would have 2% of the vote if his name was actually on the ballot. Vivienne Lapointe, Liberals, 42.5%, pretty much. Ian Symington, Conservative Party, gets almost 50% of the vote. And Nadia Varelli, the New Democrats, almost 5.5% of the vote. Again, right? This is Sudbury. This is Sudbury, ladies and gentlemen. So Ian Symington, 50% of Sudbury.com readers said they'll vote for him. Who took the survey? The ones who took the survey. And 42% compared to 42% of people that are going to vote for incumbent Vivienne Lapointe, right? So this could spark some people trying to do some interesting things right up until Monday, right? To try and change that. But for now, it is what it is as of 2 days ago. Now, can you still vote on this? No, it doesn't look like you can continue to vote for that. Sometimes it looks like they give it a day or so for you to continue to vote. And then, as we see, we shared on our Facebook page the Sudbury, East Manitoulin Nickel Belt riding. Out of these candidates, who would you vote for? So this is, the surrounding area, Sudbury, North Shore, Manitoulin. So you have Jim Belanger, who's running for the Conservative Party. He's at 50%. So very similar to the Sudbury riding, where Marc Sédé, 40%. So he's got a 10% lead over Marc Sédé, who's the incumbent currently Liberal. And apparently Jim didn't even show up to any of the debates. And Mark slammed him in local media for doing that. He said, how can you vote for someone who doesn't come out to these debates? But we'll get to maybe why that is in a second from another Sudbury.com poll. It might explain that. So you have NDP at 5%, almost 6%. And People's Party is 1.5%. But again, the main contenders here are Conservatives and Liberal. I don't care what you say or who you're going to vote for. These are the two strong parties, 50%, 40%. All of the rest of the 1, 2, 3, 4 parties are taking up the last 9% of the vote. It's just between Conservatives and Liberals pretty much. And I'm not saying that to skew anybody or say don't vote for the party you want to vote for if it's not one of these two. I'm not saying that. I'm saying vote for whoever you want. But it looks like, according to this poll, so what party did you vote for already in the election? This is another question. What party did you already vote for? Almost 60% Conservative to 35.5% Liberal in Sudbury. Does that say it all? That's where it is. So they've already voted for, or they're going to vote for. So that gives you a good idea. So if you have anything different in Sudbury and people get upset or whatever, we can come back to this show and say, wow, well, that's interesting how that happened, right? But this gives you a good indication. And it looks, for all intents and purposes, it looks like Sudbury is going to go blue in both the Sudbury East, Manitoulin Nickel Belt riding and the Sudbury riding. That's the way the Sudbury.com polls are looking. Thanks everyone for watching today. It's all the time we got. I thought we'd have time for a little bit more, but just a little indication of polls and what they say and what we can make of them and can you trust them and what they all mean. But we're going to know either way on Monday. So make sure to vote no matter what. We appreciate you watching and listening to the show. Thanks everyone. We'll be back same time, same place on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care, and stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.